Would you rather spend $700 per month on condo fees or on literally anything else that actually benefits you? Now, I see this quite often in the Calgary real estate market. Condo fees that are so high that it wipes out your buying power, owners being hit with surprise cash calls and having whopping bills, and just having policies that are very restrictive. Now, buying a condo in Calgary does come with its challenges, and they're not for everybody. So in this video, I'm going to break down the things that I will be looking out for and why a condo might not be for you. Now, that said, condos can be a great option for some people. So in this video, I'll also break down the things that I will be looking out for to make sure that you purchase the right condo for you. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about why you should never buy a condo in Calgary. And the first point here, this is the easy one, and that will be condo fees. So why are condo fees so high in Calgary? And it's to the point where they don't really make much sense to me. And I would say they're high because they're not fixed costs. So as inflation has gone up, so have the costs of everything. Building materials, insurance, the workers who do certain things around the condos. All that is way more expensive. Natural gas is not cheap anymore, and that's powering like your underground parkades and your common areas. So everything is just more expensive, and that's caused the condo fees to go up in price as well. Now, here's my main gripe with condo fees, in that they just don't make much sense to me, and I can't justify it anymore. And for example, if you're buying a single family home and you're paying for all the utilities and water and recycling and so on, that fee is going to cost you, I don't know, $300, $400 per month. But if you're buying an entry-level condo, say it's 700 square feet, one bedroom, one bathroom, I'm seeing some whopping condo fees of like $700 per month. I just can't justify that, and that's one of the main reasons I would just not get involved in a condo. If it's $700 today, guaranteed in a couple of years from now, it's gonna be like $750, $800, and up and up and up from there. So I just can't justify it. I think the money that you're putting towards that is largely wasted. I just can't justify these huge monthly costs for like entry-level condos. And a few more tips on condo fees. If you are buying a brand new unit, be warned that the builders will typically have lower condo fees in an attempt to sell the units. And this can cause problems down the road. If it's not addressed, there could be a shortfall in the reserve fund, and this could lead to special assessments. So just be warned that newer builds will typically have lower condo fees that are not adequate for the future growth of the reserve fund. And the last point on condo fees is that sometimes they're so huge that it actually takes away a good chunk of your approval for your mortgage, and that you could be better off just to like rent for a bit and then buy a single family home or a townhouse that has no condo fee or a lower condo fee, because it can actually take away quite a bit from your approval. And point number 2 are the rules and restrictions. Now, when you're buying a condo, you can't just do whatever you want. And the big one here for most buyers is pet restrictions. There can be restrictions on pets, period. There could be condos where there's no pets allowed, end of story. There can be limitations on the size of pets, certain breeds, the amount of pets, if there's like only one cat policy. Just stuff like that. There can be restrictions on age as well. Some condo complexes are like 50 years and older. So there can be all sorts of restrictions. In the past, I lived in a condo and I got into trouble once because I had my winter tires on the balcony and I had a box or two and someone called me out on that. So there can be restrictions for that. Sometimes you can't smoke on your balcony. So if you're a smoker, that's one thing to watch out for. I don't mind that one, but again, if you are a smoker, you might want to reconsider that. There can be bylaws for all sorts of different things like that. Now, there can also be restrictions on renovations as well. Generally, any licensed tradesperson is fine, but sometimes they restrict this and the design of the product. Like if it's a fence or like an air conditioning installation, they control the product type and the actual tradesman. Now, if we look at bare land condos, these look like detached homes, but they're actually condo complexes. And sometimes they will restrict what you can do with your front and back lawn. If you want certain decorations, they'll have to be approved, or landscaping features, that can also be an issue sometimes. So you have to make sure you know what you're buying and you understand the rules and restrictions for the complex. There's just less freedom when it comes to condos compared to single family properties. Moving along, let's talk about special assessments. Now, this can be a big one. Now, what a special assessment is in layman's terms, it's kind of like a cash call to fix a certain problem in the condo complex. So with your condo fee, a certain percentage of it goes towards the reserve fund. This is kind of like a rainy day fund. And whenever there's an issue in the condo complex, they pull money from the reserve fund to fix it. Now, occasionally there might not be enough money in the reserve fund to fix the problem. And when this happens, they agree to do a special assessment, and each seller has to pay a certain amount to fix the problem. Now, special assessments are not always bad. I've seen them quite small, where it was like $1,000 per unit to put in air conditioning units, which is actually a pretty good thing. But I've also heard stories where there was major work that had to be done, and each unit had to pay like $40,000 to fix, roofing, siding, the parkade. And they can be large enough where people have to actually get financing to help pay for their special assessment contribution. So they can be quite scary, and this is one reason why condo ownership might not be for you. And you don't really have much control over this as well. If the board agrees to do a special assessment, you're kind of at their mercy. So you're not really in charge of this, and they can be quite substantial. Point number 4 is noise and lack of privacy. Now, I find a lot of condos in Calgary, not all of them, but quite a few, are actually not built all that well. It's quite common in Calgary to have 4-story condo complexes. And the reason for this is that I think if you're over 4 stories, they have to be concrete and steel. But under 4 stories, they can be wood frame. So with the thin walls, you can just hear neighbors walking around. You can hear people having sex sometimes. You can hear dogs barking is also very common and super annoying. You can hear your neighbors on the balcony. Strong cooking smells can be an issue. I've had this happen quite often where I'm showing buyers some condos and we walk into the lobby area and the smell is so strong that the buyers just walked out immediately. Strong cooking smells is definitely an issue. Next point is lack of appreciation and resale challenges. Now, I've been licensed in real estate since 2012, and for most of my time, the condo market in Calgary has been very sluggish. I would say most of the time it was either a balanced market or a buyer's market. I've only seen a red hot seller's market once, and that was during COVID around like 2023-ish, maybe into parts of 2024, where we just had so many newcomers to Alberta, and we just had massive numbers of international migrants coming here as well. Those days are kind of over now, and we're back to like the buyer's market in the condo sector. So I just find that Calgary is a better single-family market than a condo market. So I would say if you are buying a condo, don't expect to see massive price gains. I would say that the condo market's not nearly as good as the single-family sector in Calgary. And I do think it's still better than renting, but just don't expect massive gains is all I'm saying. And the next point, financing challenges. So condos can have both resale and financing challenges. I get emails from lenders all the time during the conditional sale phase asking for financials or engineering reports, and they're looking at ways to crater the transaction. So it can be a bit unnerving, and it can be a bit more difficult to finance condos compared to single-family properties. Now, when it comes to lenders, sometimes the lender itself has actually internally flagged some buildings, and they won't finance them. So they can have issues like that as well. And even some insurers do the same thing. The insurer might not like that it has post-tension cables. It might not like that it has age restrictions. So you have to pass the insurer and the lender at the same time. So I just find condos can be a bit more challenging to finance compared to single-family homes, and this can affect the resale market down the road. So those are all the main reasons why I wouldn't buy a condo. But that said, for some people, a condo is still the best bet. And if you want to buy a condo, here are some tips to make the buying process a little bit easier for you and to ensure that you buy the right unit. So the main point here, and the first one, is to fully analyze and understand the condo documents. So the condo docs include many things like the condo plan, the bylaws, financials, the budget, insurance, management agreements, the reserve fund, all sorts of things like that. Just make sure that you fully understand what you're getting yourself into, and I'd recommend hiring a specialist to go over the documents with you. And pay particular attention to the bylaws. Make sure that you understand them. Is your pet going to be allowed? Are there certain things that you can or can't do? And in terms of resale value, I'd recommend buying on the top floor if you can. There's just less noise, and there's usually better views as well. And the same thing with corner units. You have less neighbors, and they're generally more desirable as well, and should hold their value a little bit better. Now, in terms of positioning, I find that condos will sell better when they're facing the front street versus the parkade. Like if you have a condo facing the dumpster versus having it facing like a tree in the front lawn area, that's generally better. Or if it has a view, obviously, that's better as well. So just be mindful of how it's positioned. Is the condo facing a busy road? This one is a killer. I've sold condos that are backing on to like McLeod Trail, like in that Lake Bonavista area. That can be a tough sell when there's constant traffic noise. And this applies to everything. If you have a single family home or a townhouse on a busy road, it won't sell nearly as well as one that's in a quieter location. So busy roads are a big no-no for me. I'd avoid them at all costs. I'd also be mindful of certain things like being above the parkade entrance. You might get headlights in your unit, and you might also get the parkade garage door going up and down and hear the noise of that nonstop. I'd be mindful of being close to the elevator. It can be a bit annoying sometimes too. If you've got thin walls and people are talking while they're waiting for the elevator, you might hear that in your unit. That can be a bit annoying as well. Next point, I would never buy a below grade unit. So these are units that are in the basement of a condo complex. These are just very difficult to sell, and I wouldn't want any part of them. That's just my opinion. Same thing goes for ground floor units in the Beltline or like the downtown area. I think it comes with safety risks, and a good percentage of the population won't want them. And I've heard stories of like homeless banging on the windows of ground floor condo units asking for bottles and stuff like that. So I'd probably steer away from ground floor units downtown. Not as much of a problem in the suburbs, but downtown I don't think I'd be involved in that. Just my opinion. In terms of parking, titled is always better than assigned parking. And having underground parking is also ideal. We get hail and we get lots of snow in Calgary. I think having a storage locker is great. Not a deal breaker, but it definitely helps for resale having your own storage locker. Never buy odd layouts. If it doesn't fit your eye, I probably wouldn't buy it. And there's one condo complex in Mission, and all the units are kind of triangular, and it makes me kind of go crazy seeing them. And I think it's a tough building to sell in for this reason. So I would avoid odd layouts if you can. Now, if you're buying a 2-bedroom condo, I think it does help for resale purposes to have the bedrooms with some separation. Like if there's a bedroom on each end of the living room, that is more ideal than having the bedrooms side by side. So I get buyers ask for this quite routinely, and I do think it helps your chances of resale when there is some separation with the bedrooms. If you're buying a condo, I would always check to see the history of the building. If there's like hardly any sales in the complex, that's usually a good sign that people like living there and they keep the units for a long period of time. But if you're buying one and there's a whole bunch of active listings, that could be a clue that there's maybe a special assessment going on or there's some issues in the complex. And if there's a lot of terminated or expired listings in the complex, this can be a dead giveaway. There's something up with the condo complex and people are trying to sell, but buyers are not going through with the process. And the last point here is I would check the percentage of conventional rentals or short-term rentals. You could be an investor hoping for an Airbnb business and the condo changes their plans regarding short-term rentals. This actually happened downtown in the Guardian complex, I believe, where people bought in there and they had a lot of short-term rentals. And then the condo corporation changed their plans and they banned short-term rentals. So this is one thing to be mindful of. If you are buying as an investor, you want to make sure that you can actually go ahead with your plans. Now, this is just my opinion, but if I was living in a condo complex, it was my primary residence, I don't think I'd want to have a bunch of Airbnb units in the complex. What if there's parties nonstop next to your unit? I just think I'd be a bit cautious about this. So if I was buying a condo, I'd make sure to understand the rules regarding short-term rentals and rentals period, and to see like the actual percentage of how many are owned versus how many are rented out. Well, there you go. That's my take on the condo market in Calgary and what to look out for. I've got a very similar video to this, but much broader on what types of properties you should never buy in Calgary. This link above will actually direct you to that link. And if you're out there watching this and you could use some help buying, selling, or relocating, feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. I'd love to help you out. And I've also got some free resources for you in the pinned comment, buyer's guide, seller's guide, and a relocation guide, all free for download. And I will see you on the next video.